Hey guys, it's Pantronics here, and this is going to be my ganking video that I mentioned in my previous video that I would release, and it will be an excerpt of my Warwick guide, my long Warwick guide that I will be releasing in months ahead of time. And the reason why I am releasing these excerpts and will continue releasing these type of videos in the future is because the video guide is taking a lot longer than I expected to finish, and especially considering I'm not a full-time streamer or whatever. I'm doing this for fun. I have plenty of schoolwork and stuff to do, so I don't have much time on hands to work on it. So I will instead of keeping you guys waiting for months, I'm going to just release these small videos which are just segments of my guide so you guys can keep up, and it'll give you something to look forward to in addition to getting feedback, because that's one thing I am looking forward to with these type of videos, is getting feedback from you guys to see if you like what I am saying in my video, if the information is relevant, if I'm talking clearly, if I sound too loud or something like that. Anything that's really nitpicky, let me know how you feel. I'm trying to keep it relatively casual but informative and clear, but I do talk pretty fast. So just let me know how you feel the video is. But yeah, the hard part of the video guide is definitely, or the reason why the video guide is taking so long is the fact that I do have I'm trying to make it visually appealing and relevant, and the way I'm doing that is by placing gameplay clips from my Twitch stream over what I'm talking about. So for example, when I'm talking about ganking, it shows clips of me ganking. If I'm talking about the warrior wick build, it's gonna be clips of me with warrior and stuff. And the reason I want to do that is obviously I don't have to go to that far and take that much time to go through all hundreds of hours on my stream just to find specific clips for what I'm talking about. But I want this guide to be the best guide possible. Literally my goal with this guide is quality. I want it to be and I don't want it to be super overly extensive to where the fact that it's 10 hours long. I could do that if I wanted to with Warwick, but I'd rather just make a pretty in-depth guide, a very in-depth guide actually, that is super easy to follow and can actually allow someone to improve their gameplay. That's 100% my goal, and I want it to be visually appealing just because I already have a written guide out there, so I might as well utilize the video aspect if I'm going to make a video guide. So that's basically my goal. And then the next couple of weeks or months, whatever, of me releasing videos, it's going to be mostly probably excerpts of my guide, other stuff as well. I did mention that I'm looking for different types of videos I want to talk about or upload in the future. And I got some suggestions from you guys, which are mostly the suggestions for stuff that I already thought about or considering, or are now considering. So expect more content in the future regarding anything related to Warwick, and especially excerpts from my guide, because that's what we're going to be doing. So anyways, I'm going to stop talking. Look, check out this ganking video right now, and on top of that, give me feedback so that I know if I'm going in the right direction, because if I'm not going in the right direction, I'm in a perfectly fine state where I can go back and change things, or at least if anything's too bad. I don't think anything's too bad, but just let me know. So peace out guys, enjoy the video. I'm going to split up ganking into two parts. The first being a general jungle theory, which can be applied to almost any other champion, at least in the jungle. And the second being Warwick-specific strengths and weaknesses in addition to other tips. For general ganking, there are two broad concepts you need to consider. The first is usually applied at least somewhat in all elos, which is considering you and your team's perspective, such as the information you know, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and a million other factors. The other side that is usually forgotten is the enemy's perspective. What do they know? What vision do they have? What do they want to do? How will they react to your ganks, and what abilities will they use to escape or fight back? Also, what is the enemy jungler's pathing, and are you at risk of getting counter-ganked? What does the enemy want to do, or will the lane get bloody? For example, does the level 6 Riven with Ignite want to all-in your top laner? Stuff like that. This applies to your teammates as well. Put yourself in every laner's position to try to read what they will do, and respond accordingly. Also, can you even get the gank off without dying? I see this a lot in low elo where the enemy Alawi is 4-0 and your top laner is spam pinging them to gank their lane when realistically, you'll just get 2v1s and feed her even more. Use your own judgments with the ganks and mute your team if they get too annoying. Even as a challenger level jungler, I'll still get flamed by my laners in gold elo who say I'm bad and I'm trolling them because I'm not ganking their lane. These players don't understand the jungle, so don't listen to them if they are influencing bad decisions. Another thing is the trade-offs to a gank. Is it even worth it if you manage to get the kill in the first place? For example, is killing the top laner worth it if you lose Inferno Dragon as a result? Again, just use your own judgment to determine what is worth. This is part of the jungle hierarchy concept that I always talk about. All these things are just a few of many different factors you need to consider when ganking on any champion. I literally just thought of these off the top of my head. Don't take it as gospel. I couldn't really list off everything that you need to know. I just wanted to hammer home that there's a lot of different factors you need to consider when you're going for a gank. It isn't straightforward like a lot of people think. So learning to take in all this information without thinking too much at the end of the day is what separates the noobs from the pros. So just learn one thing at a time, try to consider everything that there is to, consider on the map, what the enemy knows, what you know, and use that to your advantage, using your own judgment. Now for Warwick specifically. So you're going to want to wait for at least level 3 to gank most of the time. A lot of people ask me about level 2 ganks, and sometimes my teammates will ask me to gank level 2 after red buff, but it is rarely effective on Warwick, trust me. You need the E for sticking power in addition to the tankiness, since Warwick has very low base health early on into the game. So most of the time, you're either just going to get bursted and you're not going to be able to do anything, or you might die, or you're just going to get kited. Usually the only time that I will actually level 2 gank is to clean up a fight that happened level 1 where the enemy laner survived with less than 100 health, so I can just flash Q and maybe throw in an auto to secure the kill. Other than that, you're not going to be able to expect much. Level 3 is when you can definitely gank on Warwick, however, and you should be on the lookout for opportunities once you hit level 3 and you have all of your abilities. However, Warwick still likes a few levels and items to help him out stat-wise, and Tiamat in particular can be used with Q to add more burst to your gank. So the more levels you wait on, the better Warwick's ganks get. Warwick's ganking power goes up a ton level 6, and you should usually look for ganks anytime your ultimate is up, because it's obviously really good CC and damage if you land it, on top of allowing you to close the gap. So when you're ganking with Warwick, you're going to want to open up with your W most of the time, unless you already have a blood trail. And try to find a sweet spot where you're not using it too soon, which would in turn, mark the enemy and scare them off too soon. But at the same time, using it using it early enough to maximize the movement speed on it, so that you don't scare off the laner. There's a sweet spot, and the sweet spot's usually around where they actually spot you, so around where you're walking into vision range. So right before you walk into vision range of the enemy, use your W. Your E has multiple uses, and it can be used for the damage reduction. So if you're ganking a lane, they're going to turn on you. So if you're ganking like a Diana or a Zed, and they're going to try to burst you, use your E to avoid the burst if they feel like they're going to turn. Otherwise, use your E to feed them backwards into your team. There's also some other niche uses for it. So if you're ganking like a Camille, for example, you can cancel her E with your fear. If you're ganking Yasuo, you can actually cancel the dash with your fear. It's very minimal, but a lot of times you can actually utilize some of the mechanics to get a successful gank off. So learn your matchups and learn the way that interactions work with your E. And your Q, this is when Q mechanics are most important. A lot of people will just walk up with Warwick and they will just Q immediately, like off cooldown, and just deal damage, heal, and stuff, which is nice. But then the enemy will just escape. They'll flash out, they'll use their escape ability, and then they're not going to be able to stick. Use your Q for utility factor. Follow flashes, follow blinks, avoid CC like Yasuo Tornado and stuff like that. The damage and the healing is minimal. That's like the secondary option for it. You're going to want utility first, especially when you're ganking. So make sure you utilize your Q to its fullest potential and abuse the utility factor that it provides without rushing it. And similarly, with your ultimate, you're not going to want to rush your ultimate a lot of the times. Sure, sometimes you can open with your ultimate and secure a kill. Also, other times you can use it to follow up. So if you're ganking like a Lissandra and she ults, you can use your ult to follow up and chain CC. But anytime you don't need to actually close the gap in a gank, if you're ganking from behind, make sure that you use your abilities first, get on top of them,
And once they flash out or use their escape ability, then you can follow up with your ultimate and continue going at them. So don't rush your R, don't rush your Q, open with your W, and everything else is pretty standard. The Warwick ganks aren't that tough. The most popular way that you'll gank with Warwick is by ganking from behind, obviously, since you don't have like a really reliable way of closing the gap without your ultimate or flash. So ganking from behind and being able to fear them backwards is the best way to gank with Warwick. Other ways are chasing across the map, cleaning up kills. Obviously, this is something that only like Warwick can do quite as well as he can, and that's by like running. You know, like if you're mid lane and then there's like a fight in top lane and like they're super low, you can run across the map and pick up kills that way. Also, there is tower diving. Warwick's tower diving is pretty effective. His E reduces damage to towers. You can heal off minions. So like say like if you're tower diving and you kill someone and then the next tower shot's going to kill you, you could like flash out and like Q off minions, or you can just Q a minion, something like that. There's lots of ways of healing. Your R will heal you if you are someone under the tower. You can also R to close the gap under the tower and tower dive. You can also R to escape the tower from a tower dive. But Warwick's tower dives are pretty good in general. It's not like perfect. He's not like Elise. You can't just avoid tower damage, but he's pretty durable. So if you have a blood trail on someone, or able to, and then you're able to actually like sprint underneath the tower really fast and clean them up, go for it. You can also lane gank with Warwick, although I would only ever really do this if you have a blood trail on someone already, because you can run up on them really fast. But lane ganking, by the way, is just running through the lane from your side of the tower and just sprinting at them basically. And obviously Warwick can do that because of his movement speed, and especially if you have flash or ultimate up. But that's somewhat situational. And then lastly, counter ganking with Warwick is very, very effective. There's multiple ways you can counter gank. A lot of times you can just sit in a bush though, but other times you can follow it up with your W. So when I counter gank, oftentimes I will, like on a lot of champions, when you're trying to counter gank, you'll want to, like get in position and like sit in a bush and prepare for the counter gank. But since Warwick has his W ability, you can usually just farm a camp nearby and then wait for the gank to happen and catch up right away. It kind of depends though. You just use your own judgment to figure out if you can get away with doing that or not, or if you need to respond right away. Just depends on how bursty the gank is, how quick it'll last, and how low everyone is.